It was a streak snapper Monday night. 3 in a row the wrong way for the Dolphins, 3 in a row in the win column for the Rams. A Dolphins victory, 23-15, puts an end to both. Tyreek Hill in the end zone, putting this one out of reach. Joe Musso in studio alongside Emory, Hunt, and Douzable. Postgame is presented by Old El Paso. Start somewhere fresh. We shall start right here, Emory, Hunt. That defense for Miami came to life in this game, limited LA to no touchdowns, just 5 field goals. What did you see defensively from Miami that led the way tonight?
Effort to stop in the run. And without the run, there was no passing game. So that was the whole key we talked about pregame, that everything the Rams do offensively is predicated on their run game. Well, Miami came in exactly with the mindset of, hey, if we stop the run, we can stop the Rams. And they did exactly that. So once they were able to stop the run, it forced those Ram tackles to be a little bit more locked into those pass rushers, and that they also got pressure on the edge. So starting with the run defense helped pave the way for those pass rushers to get after Matt Stafford.
Yeah, Emory, we talked in the pregame about them having to mitigate this rushing attack from Kyron Williams. They did a really good job. We kind of talked about the Rams getting healthier. Well, the Dolphins got healthier in the secondary for the Miami Dolphins. Javon Holland back, Kader Kohu came back, played really well. But I think the biggest get for them was Zach Sealer coming back to really solidify that interior of the defensive line with Calais Campbell. Another thing, shout out to Anthony Weaver. Love what he did in the second half. He understood that their right tackle, the Rams' right tackle, Joe Noteboom, was really struggling. So what did they do? They put him in stunt action all game long, and he could not block anybody. He dialed up the pressure in the second half, really put the onus on his secondary, and they got after Matt Stafford. Couple new pieces on that front line for the Rams, so they're just getting their feet from up under them. Steve Avila, Jonah Jackson, who had a couple of high snaps, but I love what I saw from Anthony Weaver, really upticking pressure in the second half.
Yeah, you got to applaud what Miami did there defensively, but also have to look inward if you're LA in this spot. Massive moment. This is a Sean McVay-led offense scoring no touchdowns. Matthew Stafford, 109 career home starts. It's just a third without an offensive touchdown for his team, and the first since 2018. Deuce, what was the issue? Obviously, got to establish the run. They did not do that. Coughed up the ball, didn't protect it, but punctuating drives. Where'd you see them come up short?
Execution was awful for the Rams today. We talked about it coming out of the second half. They had a really good drive going, and then Jonah Jackson, who made the start at center today, a couple of high snaps, knocks them essentially out of field goal range, but their field goal kicker makes a kick. Then they jump off sides on the field goal moves, backs them up 5. The kicker misses the field goal, takes all the momentum away from the LA Rams. So Matt Stafford was under heavy pressure, and this was a Miami Dolphins team that had struggled to get after the passer. So to me, it was the execution and the protection up front. Right, the protection up front was abysmal. I talked about Steve Avila and then also Jonah Jackson kind of making their return. So they were a little rusty tonight as well, but they have major issues at that right tackle position since Rob Havenstein has gotten hurt.
Emory 0 for 3 in the red zone, LA, but a number of those kicks came from outside the red zone as well, sort of stalling midfield. Did you see anything inside the play calling, let alone the execution tonight?
Well, they were 3 out of 12 on third downs, too, so they couldn't get inside the red zone often. And that was the biggest issue for me because we talked about in the pregame how great of a coach Sean McVay is. And one attribute he usually has locked in is his situational football, knowing when and where to go for it on fourth down, when and where to kick the field goal, go for it, go for 2 or whatnot. And this is someone that has done a great job in that regard. But this game, 0 for 3 in the red zone, 3 out of 12 on third downs, and they also shot themselves in the foot. Leger talked about it. The penalties, 6 penalties for 64 yards, backed up offense. They couldn't dig out the hole. They just kept digging deeper, and it ultimately cost them this game.
Looking at Tua's stats, doing some quick math on these last 2 games, because we know he's coming off that game in which he had the highest completion percentage of his career, 25 of 28. In this game, he goes 20 of 28, 45 of his last 56 for 438 yards. That would be 3 touchdowns to 1 interception. It's not the full form just yet for this Miami offense, Emory, but we did see flickers of it, flickers of the scheme, flickers of the execution. Where are you seeing Tua get more comfortable here a couple more weeks removed from that last injury?
Working past his initial read. That has been one of my biggest knocks of Tua Tagovailoa since he was at Alabama. If you take that pre-snap picture away post-snap, he tends to freeze, take sacks, which he did tonight. He took some sacks, but for the most part, he hadn't been able to move off that initial picture. And we saw him multiple times tonight have a plan when they take away the first option. So going to his second read, sometimes third read, and to a fault was holding the ball and took a sack. But for the most part, he did a great job in working off that initial read. He'll get that pre-snap look, and that's why the anticipation has always been what it was, because, okay, I know what they're trying to do. I'm going to get the ball out quickly. But when it changed the post-snap picture, he usually freezes and didn't have an answer. This game, he's finding answers consistently. That's why we saw multiple targets get the football, and that's why I thought they had one of his best days, most efficient days in throwing the ball.
Emory, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that has been a knock on Tua Tagovailoa. You take that first read away, you can affect him in the pocket. But what I really love was what people have been kind of dinging him on for most of his career, fellas, and that's him being able to play off-platform football. And we saw that multiple times today. Him got out of the pocket. That big completion to Raheem Mostert for 25-plus yards to keep them on the field, to eat away clock, to kick a field goal, right? We saw him get out of the pocket and find Jonnu Smith. Like, he was on the money outside of the pocket, more specifically in that second half. To Emory's point, in that first half, he was trying to go to his first read too much. We saw Roseboom come up with an interception. Almost had a second one on him jumping a route, because we know Tua will not take a profit going to the open guy. Well, the Rams were physical receivers at the line of scrimmage, kind of knocked that timing off. Well, Tua adjusted, right? He was comfortable. His offensive line did a better job in the second half protecting him. He was able to get outside of the pocket, play some all-platform football, and make some big completions down the field.
11 of 13 for 120 passing yards and a touchdown in the second half for Tagovailoa. A second half in which Miami scored on all three drives, not counting that kneel down at the end of the game. It was, I don't want to say spectacular, but a step in the right direction. We're going to get to a full playoff picture look ahead for both of these teams and what this game might mean in just a bit here. But this was an easy spot for Miami to lay down. This was a season on the line moment, as all of these moments to follow will be for a team that dug the hole that they did. They showed some resolve behind their head coach in this one, and it's a head coach that's maybe come under fire in the absence of Tua for his ability to get his guys on the same page. What'd you make of the buy-in tonight, Emory?
Listen, I love it, because at the end of the day, they got it done without their run game. Usually we're talking about, well, Tua was aided by this big chunk play on the ground. The run game, it kind of got the defense confused. They were able to pop off a long run. There was no run game for Miami tonight, and it was all on Tua and the short passing game. And the coaching part was, hey, man, they're trying to out-physical us at the point of attack. All we saw Miami do was just match their physicality, go out there, take it to those tackles for the Rams, and constantly had Matthew Stafford under duress. So I thought they answered the call, hey, we are the tougher team. Yeah, we're wearing aqua and orange. We're, Miami Vice cute, but at the end of the day, we're going out there and going to punch you in the mouth. So I love that fact, that physical aspect of the game from Miami tonight.
What I love, fellas, was that this team finished tonight, where they've struggled the last 2 weeks. Now, again, versus the Buffalo Bills, they were aided by a DPI. Well, some say, was that really a DPI on Jordan Poyer, or an unnecessary roughness on the hit that caused the Bills to get in field goal range to kick a 61-yarder to win? The Arizona Cardinal game, I feel like they didn't finish. They allowed James Conner to run the ball down their throat, and then the Arizona Cardinals end up winning that game late. I love that they finished in this game. Moose, you talked about how efficient Tua Tagovailoa was in the second half. 11 for 13, right? I don't need to put it on the defense. They've helped us out enough in the first half. Let us go finish in the game, right? Great drive to add 3 points a couple of times down the stretch. Every time the Rams felt like they were getting momentum and kicked the field goal, the Dolphins, the next play, went down there and kicked the field goal. We talked about that. The lack of execution from the Rams, where they missed the field goal. Well, the Dolphins went down that next drive and put it together and scored a touchdown. So I love that this team finished. You talked about the energy they had coming out. They felt like they were right there, Moose, the last two games. They were able to finish in this game. That was the most important aspect of this game for me in regards to the Miami Dolphins.
Hey, if you're going to scream my shortcomings, sing my praises, a nod to Mike McDaniel in this one. 2 more nods to come here as we turn to our old El Paso talk about a game-changing performer of the night, Emory Hunt, who gets the game ball.
Chop Robinson, man. We talked about this. Leger and I watched the draft and was talking about the prospects all throughout the draft. And we were at the Senior Bowl, and we were seeing, like, man, Mo Kamara, Chop Robinson, guys have been undervalued. And here's Chop Robinson. The Dolphins draft both of them behind what they had in those 2 starters, in Jalen Phillips and also Bradley Chubb. But it was Chop Robinson tonight that really stood out to me with the constant pressure. He had 2 quarterback hits. He had a sack. He had a TFL. So he was getting busy defensively, and his giving the Dolphins defense some promise, like, hey, we got young guys that can really go. So to me, he stood out the most. My talk about it player of the game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Wiley vet, the guy that came out the same year as I did in 2008, Calais Campbell.
Come on now.
He's just like fine wine. He just keeps getting better and better. Hey, chill out, y'all, chill out. He just gets better with time, right? Calais Campbell, great job, right? Timing up Matt Stafford throwing the football, 2 PBUs, 1 led to an interception, also had a sack. He was just disruptive in the middle. And again, at the young age of 38, still getting it done at a high level. I know it's not Taco Tuesday yet, but he's my talk about it player or game changer of the game, right? Calais Campbell still getting it done at a high level.
We had Calais Campbell on our air here on HQ 4 years ago talking about the twilight years of his career. Man's still doing it. Different city,
Still
same
going.
dude, gets a hand on a ball in this one. A massive performance from Calais Campbell. Emory Huntley, Douzable. Thank you, fellas. As always, here as we wrap up Week 10 in the NFL. And what a week it was for the state of Florida. Finally, the rain clears and the sun emerges, only in the form of the fish. You heard the story over the last couple days. Florida NFL and college football teams this week, previously 0-11. The Dolphins bucking the trend with a win in LA.